Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how I turn this image into this. And let's get started. Okay guys, so here is the first image I took. So it was taken, as you can see, it was taken at 35 millimeters on my Nikon Z24-70 f2.8 lens. I took this at Monterey Car Week. This is at Pebble Beach, as you can see. Lots of people around the cars. I mean, I had to be very patient and I had to wait for at least the car to be without anyone around it. So let's run through the settings that I took this on. So I left my white balance as shot because I think that I nailed it in camera. Um, so my photo is a little overexposed, so you can see this is where it was. Bring it back down to minus 0.70. Contrast 0.19. I kind of like to have higher contrast, and I counter that with the shadows. As you can see, I bring the shadows up a lot. I like having a higher shadow. I brought the highlights down a lot because I like seeing the sky right here. My whites, I always just kind of put my whites at around minus 50 to whatever. Like if you go to minus 100, it starts to look a little dull. So I keep it around there. My blacks, same kind of story. Too dark ruins the image. Too bright kind of ruins it also. So I like keeping it around there. Clarity, I think that around 15 is always a good option because as you can see from 0 to 15, it's not much of a difference, but there's a little bit. You can always go overboard and do 100, and if you do 100, it really just kind of starts looking cartoony and pretty bad. Um, I didn't really do much with the tone curve. I thought the tones were pretty good in this. I mean, I thought that what I had was good enough. I mean, I did a little bit to it, but not much. This is what I really played around with was the HSL sliders. So I brought my oranges down because as you can see, a lot of the people in the background and just the overall background just didn't look great. So I brought them down a little bit. Play with the greens a lot because grass looks very strange in camera. Um, Aquas, there wasn't much to do except for this little bit of sky right here. So I did that. I brought the blues down just so that it wasn't, I think that's kind of closer where it was before. Um, I always try and bring them down a little because I like having a nice sky in my images. Um, the purples, I usually try and desaturate them because, as you can see, they don't really add anything to the image with them in there. Um, Not much in the way of any of here. I usually do add a little bit. Um, Noise reduction, it didn't really need it because it was so bright out. As you can see, the car looks pretty good. And I did all this in the later image once it was after Photoshop and I fixed it. My camera is really good and it doesn't bring a lot of noise in regardless unless I'm at like nighttime shooting something really high ISO. So yeah, that's pretty much my Lightroom settings. Um, yeah, so I'm going to head over to Photoshop right now and I'll see you guys over there. Now that we're over in Photoshop, you can see that I have used the healing brush right here, and I brought up a lot of the grass right here to try and bring it up. I did that also over here, getting rid of these guys, this lady, and I tried to cut out the Huayra BC a good bit, just so then I could start adding in my layers. So as you can see, I'll go through all of these individually. Um, so this was my main layer, this layer 1. Um, This layer was this background that I got off of Google. As you can see it now that you can see it, you can see that it's much different than what was there before. But I thought that since I removed the Huayra BC up right here, that the grass started to graduate into it. So the way that I found this image was I just searched up golf course images on Google, scrolled down until I found this one, and I thought that this looked pretty good, especially because it had right here where I thought the car could sit nicely. And I just thought that I would try it. So once I brought that in, I just started cutting away at the car just so that it would fit in better. And then I went back and fix that and put the car back in with these layers, layer 2 and layer 3. You can see. Um, Layer 4 is fixing right here. I brought in another image and I cut the trees out and just tried to add another layer of trees on there. Another important part is making sure that your windows have no reflections in them. Like, as you can see before, well, you can see that I started cutting it out. But there were people standing here and you could see them standing there from the original image. So I made sure to make sure that they get cut out right there. And that pretty much wraps up what I did in Photoshop. It took me about 20 minutes to make sure that everything was aligned, line up these lines, blend it all in, cut the car out nicely. Um, this front part was difficult. And then mainly just trying to get the trees. And I also even went back in and ended up fixing some of these after the fact because I didn't really like how these looked. So I was just kind of cutting these out and trying to fix them. And let's head back to Lightroom where we can do our final adjustments and figure out what the final image looks like. Okay guys, now that we're back in Lightroom, I'll show you what the final retouches were on this photo. So I ended up dehazing it a little bit so that you could see these mountains back here. See if I go back, if you bring in the dehaze, it'll start to bring back some of those mountains a little bit. I believe I also added a graduated filter. I did. I just brought the highlights down, saturation up, just to kind of get these blues in the sky a little bit more to pop. And I didn't really do much with this. I thought the image looked pretty good, and I didn't really want to mess around with it too much. I also in here, I used the heel brush in Lightroom to try and get these trees back a little bit. As you can see, I missed this in Photoshop, which is kind of an oof, but I ended up fixing it in here. I fixed the sky a little bit because before there was a big tree right here. I ended up fixing some of these trees also. But I also ended up going back after the fact. If we go back over to Photoshop, this is my final, where I even went in and I had to cut down some of the tree here because it kind of faded too awkwardly. I wish, now that I look back at it, but I've already posted it on Instagram and oh well, is I should have taken this out. I kind of wasn't paying attention, and that's something that you always have to check, is you need to be paying attention a lot. And I think that's all I fixed pretty much, and then I exported this and I posted it over on Instagram. Okay guys, and as you see over here on my Instagram, I posted the photo. It has 812 likes in 54 minutes. It's obviously doing very well. Well guys, I hope you liked this tutorial. Please make sure to go drop a like on my Instagram, subscribe to this channel, and drop a like on this video. If you guys want to see more tutorials, I can also start trying to do more in-depth tutorials. I know I kind of flew over this. I wanted this to be a short video that kind of gave a general idea of what I was doing. Well, thank you guys for watching and have a good rest of your day.